everyone. Until now, we have seen what is foreign trade management, the parties involved in foreign trade management, global organizations who monitor the flow of trade. In today's class, we are going to be discussing about the documents that are involved in foreign trade. As we all know, international transaction involves a product moving from point A to point B. Along with the flow of the product, there is also a lot of information that is flowing. Example, the description of the product such as size, color, specifications, weight, etc. Details of the shipper and the consignee. Details of the terms of shipment, modes of transportation, cost of the products that are being sold, so on and so forth. All this information needs to be handled and managed properly in order to complete the transaction. This is achieved by using various documents in the trade. Documents are records which provide all the necessary information and details pertaining to a product or a process. Documents also act as a proof or evidence of a completion of an activity. It can also be used as a reference for an issue which may arise at a future date. Documents also make the concerned parties responsible for certain actions that need to be completed. As we all know, in an international transaction, we have multiple parties involved performing each different activities, and therefore we have relevant documents for each party which needs to be taken care of. Let us now look at the documents involved in international trade. The first document that we are going to see is the purchase order. A business transaction comes into picture when a buyer has made a buying decision to procure certain products and services from a seller after considering various factors. At this stage, the buyer issues an official document called as the purchase order, confirming his procurement from the seller for the respective products and services. The purchase order also acts as an evidence of payment from the buyer to the seller. On the other hand, a seller, by accepting the purchase order, confirms his commitment to manufacture and ship the products as requested. A purchase order provides visibility to both the buyer and the seller on the expectations of the business transaction. Contents of a purchase order include, but not limited to, the description of the goods being sold, details of the shipper and the consignee, cost of the goods that are being shipped, terms of shipment, etc. The next important party involved in a business transaction is the seller or the shipper. In international trade, the seller or the shipper has the responsibility to prepare two key documents, namely the commercial invoice and the packing list. Let us first understand the role of commercial invoice in an international transaction. Commercial invoice is a legal document between the seller and the buyer which clearly describes the goods sold. It also is a request from the seller for payment from the buyer. Commercial invoice is used by customs to determine the duties applicable at the destination port. It is also serving as a key supporting document in cases of insurance claim which may arise in the future during the business transaction. Contents of a commercial invoice include details of the shipper and the consignee, description of the product, the cost of the product that is sold, HS code of the product, terms of shipment, and so on. Let us understand this with an example. For example, let us assume a seller is selling 10 pens to a buyer in X country. Now, the commercial invoice will show details such as the description of the product. In our case, let us assume that the pens are gel pens. Also, like I said, the commercial invoice will indicate the value of the product sold. Let us assume each pen costs $10. Therefore, 10 pens will be costing around $100. So, commercial invoice will be representing the value of the total product such as $100. Since it gives the value of the products that are being shipped, customs uses this document to determine the duty that is applicable and which needs to be collected from the importer at the destination port. It is mandatory in trade that every shipment should be accompanied by a commercial invoice, and hence it becomes the sole responsibility of the shipper to prepare the commercial invoice with the correct information and details. The other important document that the seller or the shipper has to prepare in an international trade transaction is the packing list. Packing list is a document that represents the packing details of the products that are being transported. Example, wooden boxes, crates, pallets, drums, etc. It also provides the dimensions of the packaging that is used for the transportation of the goods. Alongside, packing list also provides key details about the weight of the product that is being shipped. Example, the net weight and the gross weight. Let us understand this with an example. Let us take the example of the seller selling 10 pens to a buyer in X country. To understand the net weight and the gross weight of the product, let us assume that the weight of each pen is 10 gram. Now this 10 gram represents the net weight, which is the weight of the product without any packaging. Let us assume that each pen is packed in a plastic box of rectangular shape. The plastic box in itself has some weight to it. Let us assume that the weight of an empty plastic box is 2 grams. Therefore, the gross weight now becomes the weight of the product along with the packaging, which in this case will become 12 grams. So, a packing list clearly defines the net weight and the gross weight of the product that are being shipped. Now, we also said that the packing list gives us the dimensions. In our example, we have said that the pens are packed in rectangular plastic box. So, the rectangular plastic box has a length, width and a height. Let us assume that the length, width and height are given as 8 cm, 1.5 cm and 0.5 cm respectively. Now, this becomes the dimension of the box. The transporters and the carriers use the details of the net weight, the gross weight and the dimensions of the packaging in order to decide on the space that is to be used for transportation of this particular product. A packing list, because it provides a clear detail of the contents and the marks and numbers of the product and its packaging, is used as a map by the buyer to clearly unpack and store the cargo as required. It also acts as an important document while tracing a lost cargo. Contents of a packing list include details of the shipper and the consignee, terms of shipment, net weight of the product, gross weight of the product, the dimensions of the product, packaging type, etc. In international trade, we know mode of transportation, sea or air, plays a critical role in physically moving the cargo from point A to point B. The document we use while transporting goods by sea is called as bill of lading. Bill of lading is issued by the carrier who is going to be transporting the goods as a confirmation of receipt of cargo from the shipper. Bill of lading plays three major functions. First, it is an acknowledgement of receipt of cargo from the shipper. Second, bill of lading is a document of title. Here, the bill of lading proves ownership of the cargo and provides authority to claim the goods at the destination port. The carriers are obliged to release the cargo to the rightful holder of the bill of lading. And the third, the bill of lading is a contract of carriage. This ensures that the transportation takes place as per the agreed terms between the carrier and the shipper. When the cargo arrives at the destination port, the carrier is obliged to release the cargo to the party presenting the bill of lading. A consignee may take ownership of the cargo by presenting an original bill of lading, or sometimes they may use a seaway bill or an expressway bill. When using a seaway bill or an expressway bill, the carrier is obliged to release the cargo to the consignee without asking for an original bill of lading. Now, it may happen in three major reasons. Number one, when the transaction is happening between two related companies, there may not be a need for issuing an original bill of lading, and the transaction or release of cargo may happen by using a seaway bill or an expressway bill. The other reason when a seaway bill or an expressway bill is used is when the shipment is not moving under the LC terms or the letter of credit terms. The seaway bill is a non-negotiable document. And the third reason wherein a seaway bill may be used is when the sale of the goods will not happen to a third party while in transportation. So these are the three major reasons wherein a party may be advised to use a seaway bill and take release of the cargo from the carrier. The other way that a consignee can take release of the cargo from the carrier is through a surrender BL. In a surrender BL, the shipper surrenders the original bill of lading at the load port, wherein the carrier then transmits the message to their destination office to release the cargo to the consignee upon arrival. By using this method, it is easy for the consignee to take the cargo from the carrier upon arrival itself. Now, what are the reasons that a shipper surrenders the BL at the load port? The first may be when a consignee has already made the payment for the said shipment. At such situation, the seller goes and surrenders the original BL to the carrier and thus releasing himself from the ownership of the goods. The other reason where a surrender BL is used is when the transit time between the two ports is shorter. Also, sometimes the original BL is released by the carrier after a couple of days of the shipment sailing. In both these situations, the original bill of lading may not be available to the consignee on time and it may delay in taking the delivery of the cargo. Therefore, the shipper will then surrender the original bill of lading at the load port, enabling the carrier to transmit the news to their destination port, wherein they have to release the cargo to the consignee upon arrival of the cargo. The document we use while transporting cargo by air is called as an airway bill. The airway bill is a document which is issued by the carrier or the airline as a confirmation to the receipt of cargo from the shipper. The main functions of an airway bill are: it serves as a contract of carriage, meaning it ensures that the transportation of the goods takes place as per the agreed terms between the carrier and the shipper. It serves as a proof or acknowledgement of receipt of cargo from the shipper. However, it does not act as the document of title of ownership of cargo. An airway bill can be also used as a freight invoice. An airway bill is a non-negotiable document as it does not declare the value of goods that are being transported. An airway bill can be used as a means of payment only when it is required in the letter of credit and clearly mentioned in a letter of credit transaction. The contents of an airway bill include details of the shipper, the consignee, terms of shipment, port of loading, port of discharge, description of cargo, quantity of cargo, etc. Sometimes it may happen that the shipment of cargo takes place by involving more than two modes of transportation. When such a situation arises, the document that we used for the movement is called as a multimodal bill of lading. A multimodal bill of lading is issued by a multimodal transport operator. Sometimes the multimodal bill of lading is also called as a combined bill of lading since it represents a single contract of carriage for the entire mode of transportation. A multimodal transport operator takes the responsibility for the goods through the entire period of transportation. A multimodal transport operator can be a shipping line, a forwarder, or a company who have offices or agents in at least two countries. Contents of a multimodal bill of lading include details of the shipper, consignee, transportation modes, description of the goods, quantity, terms of shipment, etc. The next document that we are going to discuss is the Certificate of Origin. In our previous class, we have seen that countries enter into trade agreements for mutual benefit through business. Trade agreements are aimed at lowering the trade barriers such as duties and taxes and promote trade flow between the two nations. The governments of every country on a time-to-time basis renews these trade agreements in order to decide the duties that are to be applicable on the imported products. For some products imported from country A, the duties may be higher, while for the other products imported from country B, the duties may be lower. The customs authorities need to know the country of origin of the imported products in order to assess and decide on the applicable duty amount as per the trade agreements. They refer to the country of origin document to decide on the country of origin of the product. The COO document represents the country of origin, that is, the country where the product was manufactured or produced. It describes the nationality of the product. The certificate of origin can be of two types, a preferential COO or a non-preferential COO. A preferential certificate of origin is one where the products are eligible for reduced tariffs or tariff-free import, while in a non-preferential certificate of origin, the products do not get any such tariff benefits. A certificate of origin may also be requested by the importer or the importing country in order to reduce any risks and uncertainties associated with the trade transaction. Let us now look at the inspection certificate and insurance certificate used in the trade. Both these documents ensure quality and safety of the cargo. First, let us look at the inspection certificate. Sometimes the importer may request for confirmation on the condition of the cargo that are being shipped, and therefore he may request the shipper for an inspection certificate. The shipper then arranges for an inspection agency who issues the certificate upon completion of the process. Inspection certificate is a record that certifies that the said product is in good condition prior to shipment. The inspection certificate can be issued for many products such as food, agriculture, chemical, etc. While the goods are in transit, they face a risk in terms of loss of shipment, theft of shipment, damage due to accidents or fire, etc. In order to protect oneself from the costs, the shipper or the buyer generally tend to insure the cargo. When the shipment is moving under an open policy, the insurance document that is used is called as an insurance certificate. Insurance certificate do not carry the terms and conditions of the policy but only act as an evidence. They are sometimes also called as cover notes. Both the insurance policy and the insurance certificate are issued by an insurance agency which are approached by the parties who are going to take the cover for the cargo. So far, we have seen the documents used by the buyer, the shipper, the shipping lines and the airlines. Moving forward, let us now look at the documents used by customs. We all know that customs play a very important role in monitoring the flow of trade both inside and outside of a country. The document that is used by customs for the export is called as the shipping bill, while the document that is used by customs for imports is called as bill of entry. First, let us look at the shipping bill. Shipping bill is a document filed with the customs by the exporter to complete the export customs formalities. Goods can be exported out of a country only after the shipping bill is checked and endorsed by the custom with a let export order. A properly endorsed shipping bill is used by the exporters to derive and claim the trade incentives and benefits as offered by the respective governments. Now let us look at the contents of a shipping bill. A shipping bill describes the shipper and the consignee details. It provides the duties and export taxes as applicable on the product. A shipping bill describes the mode of transportation, port of loading, port of discharge, value of the goods, etc. The document used by customs for imports is called as a bill of entry, which is filed by the importer in order to complete the import customs formalities. Once the bill of entry is filed, customs then assess and advise the duty amount to be paid by the importer. The importer pays the respective duty amount and releases the cargo after receiving an out of charge from the customs. Contents of a bill of entry include details of the shipper and the consignee, the import license number, value of the goods, mode of transportation, port of loading, port of discharge, the duty that is applicable, etc. Similar to the importers and the exporters, the carriers also have a responsibility to declare to the customs of a country the details of all the cargo that they are bringing into a country and taking out of the country. The document that is used for this purpose is called as a manifest. Manifest serves as a tally sheet providing all the information of the bills of lading and the airway bills that are issued under the said voyage and the description of cargo, details of shipper, consignee, port of loading, port of discharge, value of cargo, etc. Manifests are used by the customs for regulatory purposes. The manifest which is filed by a carrier with customs while export process is called as an export general manifest. On the other hand, the manifest which is filed by a carrier with the customs during an import process is called as an import general manifest. The contents of a manifest include details of shipper and consignee, details of all the bills of ladings and the airway bills that fall under the concerned voyage, details of port of loading, port of discharge, value of goods, description of goods, etc. The next document that we are going to see is called as the ATA Carnet, which translates into temporary admission. This is a special document used in trade for cargo not meant for final consumption, such as products which are brought into a country for the purpose of exhibitions and trade fairs, commercial samples, special equipments, etc. An ATA Carnet allows a product to be imported into a country without duties and taxes and allow a stay for a period of 12 months. A carnet guarantees the foreign customs that the product will be re-exported within the stipulated timeline. A carnet offers multiple entries and exits for the product. Also, a carnet makes the customs process easier for the products to be imported and exported out of a country. The ATA Carnet is jointly administered by the World Customs Organization and the International Chamber of Commerce at a global level. On a country level, we have the National Issuing and Guaranteeing Association appointed by the respective customs to monitor and oversee the process of ATA Carnets. The role of National Issuing and Guaranteeing Association is to guarantee the payment of duties and taxes as applicable in case a carnet is misused in its territory. As we all know, there is a lot of threat involved in international trade. That is because the carriers are moving between different countries carrying different cargo. One of the prevalent forms of threat is the transmission of unknown pests due to cargo movement between countries. Under the International Plant Protection Convention, the governments of 170 countries have come together to protect both the cargo and the international territory from such pest infestation. We all know that wooden materials such as pallets, crates and boxes are used for the packaging and transportation of cargo. These wooden materials also act as a great source for pest infestation, and therefore it makes it mandatory to treat these wooden materials for pest control measures. The International Standards for Phytosanitary Measures monitors the wooden packaging that are used in international trade. Fumigation is a process that is used to treat these wooden packaging materials for pest control measures. Fumigation is done by using heat treatment at very high temperatures or by using a chemical known as methyl bromide. This treatment protects the wooden materials from pest infestation and therefore makes it safe for the transportation of cargo. Fumigation is carried out by certified fumigators who also offer a fumigation certificate at the end of the process. So we have seen the different documents used by multiple parties for a smooth transaction in the international trade. A buyer issues a purchase order, a shipper uses a commercial invoice and a packing list, a shipping line issues a bill of lading, an airline issues an airway bill, the customs uses documents such as the shipping bill, bill of entry and the manifests to monitor the trade, and also certain special documents such as the certificate of origin, the ATA Carnet and the fumigation certificate. We have also seen the importance of the documents with the right information in order to carry out a smooth transaction. With this, we come to the conclusion of this topic and I will see you in the next.